aPokelypse Now by Desutoria, Chapter 19. Hideki finally found a spot he liked. It was a place where the hallway dead-ended, with a window looking out at the sea to the north. Large metal bars had been installed in front of the window, as an extra fortification from an unlikely but potential outbreak. Hideki only supposed this, but the beauty of the sight was not lost on him. The moon was providing just enough light for him to distinguish the sea from the sky on the horizon, and each wave glistened with the moonlight. He sighed as he placed both hands over his face and fell back hard against the wall behind him. He then allowed himself to slide down, all the way down until he was seated against the wall, like a child in a time-out. He tried hard to distract himself, but every few moments he'd hear a faint scream that would pull him back into the horrific reality that he was in. In a way, he was relieved. A few minutes ago he was afraid for her life, unsure if Blaine would even allow them in, much less volunteer to perform a surgery to fix her leg. Did Blaine still just have that much respect for him after all these years? He remembered their battle well, more specifically the conversation they'd had right after the battle. Blaine told him he'd far exceeded anything he'd seen in a challenger in all his years as a gym leader. He'd shook his hand and told him that he would complete his challenge. He didn't realize until this moment how much those words had inspired him and driven him to carry on. Even after all hope seemed like it was lost along with Gerald and Victory Road. Another scream of agony. The loudest one yet. It violently snapped him back into reality. He reached into his bag and pulled out a pair of earbuds. He plugged them into his phone and searched his library for the loudest thing he could find. After a few minutes of death metal, he slipped into his own thoughts again. He didn't even notice that V had sat down beside him until she tapped him on his shoulder. "Why did you leave?" she asked him. Just the kind of question she'd ask. Somehow this girl had an uncanny ability to hit Hideki right at the core. "There's nothing I can do," he said, looking out the window again, "and I didn't want to get in the way." "I don't think that's it." He said nothing. I think you're hurting inside right now. I think you're scared for her. I think you're feeling some of her pain." "No, V, I'm not. And that's just it. You know what I wish right now? I know she has to do this. It's the only way to fix her leg. I wish I could do this for her. I wish I could take all of her pain away. She lied about how bad she was hurt all along, just so we wouldn't worry about her, just so she wouldn't slow us down." V smiled. "She's stronger than you think she is, Hideki." "I know she's strong, V. But I wish she didn't have to be so strong all the time." A few moments of silence passed. "Has she told you anything about our past?" V shook her head. Hideki sighed. "About 3 years ago, I went to the Hoenn region to try the same challenge that I won in Kanto, but I lost at the third gym. All of my Pokemon. I watched them all die at the hand of Watson and his Magneton." V was silent. She couldn't imagine how she could possibly respond to that. "I didn't know Harmony too well at the time. We met right before I left. She was just a kid, didn't even have her own Pokemon yet, but she came all the way from Johto to ask me to teach her how to become a trainer." Hideki let out a small grin upon recalling this memory. It was quickly wiped from his face as he remembered the next one. "I took losing hard. Too hard. It totally changed me. I was almost completely dysfunctional for a long time because of it, but Harmony..." He let out a dry laugh. "It hurt her even more than it hurt me." "What happened?" "She bugged me. Constantly. Wouldn't leave me the hell alone. She'd call me almost every night. Sometimes I'd go days without answering, but she'd always try again the next day. She got our mother to take her to see me whenever she could. Then, after she started her own journey and come to Kanto by herself, she'd do that too." "It must have helped to have someone there like that." Hideki said nothing as he looked down in shame. No, it didn't. I was horrible to her. I completely rejected all of her attempts to help me. I just wanted to shrivel up and die in my own aloneness. She got in the way of that. I saw her as a buzzard, but in truth, she was an angel. That's a very sweet thing for you to say, Hideki. Again, silence. She's been through so much because of me. She's given up so much for me. And now she's going through this, and I can't even help her. Hell, I'm not even man enough to go be with her right now. Pathetic. I don't think it's pathetic, V offered. It hurts you too much to watch her go through that kind of pain. It shows you really care about her. She'd be there for me. But would you want her to be? Would you ask her to watch you suffer like that? V's last question brought up a plethora of conflicting thoughts and emotions in him. She stood up, then stooped down again to hug him. You're too hard on yourself, Hideki. Several hours passed. Just Hideki and his music. He tried to guess how late it was now before remembering the clock on his phone. 3:13. After all he'd been through today, he couldn't imagine going to sleep right now. His thoughts weighed far too much for that to happen tonight. Blaine had found him a few hours earlier. The procedure was successful, apparently. He'd given her a heavy dose of Xerxes painkillers and she'd passed out almost instantly, in part due to the side effects of the drugs, but mostly out of exhaustion. If you would, in a few hours when the painkillers start to wear off, Blaine instructed, I'd like you to go and watch over her. I have a do not disturb sign on the door on the room you're looking for. When she comes to, she'll likely still be feeling the side effects of the drugs. She'll be confused and disoriented, and she'll want someone there that she can trust to be with her. The other two told me you're the one I should go to for that. He wondered if it was time for him to expect her to be awake yet. Half of him desperately wanted to go see her right away, awake or not, but the other half wanted nothing to do with her. This part was too ashamed. It felt unworthy to even speak to her. Finally, the first half sighed. He shook his head and stood up. Harmony felt herself awake suddenly. At least, she thought that's what it was, an awakening. But had she been asleep? She gathered her surroundings. Same walls, same door, same table, same bed. She didn't remember having a dream, but she didn't remember anything else between now and whenever she last roamed the land of the conscious either. It must be the drugs. No wonder Hideki was so giddy when he took them. He only had 2, right? And how many had they given her? No good. She barely remembered anything from shortly after leaving the Seafoam Islands. She wondered if they'd given her too many. The sensation felt a little too light at times. She'd drift off and feel as though she was floating uncontrollably, with no way to softly land back on the bed she'd truly been lying still the whole entire time. Only then did she remember her leg. Ironically, it was the only part of her that still wasn't completely numb. She could feel the cut, and could tell that she was hurt, but it was more like she'd grown a tolerance to the sensation of the pain itself. A light tapping on her door startled her. The door creaked open slightly. It was Hideki. Hey, Harm, he said softly. Sorry, I didn't know if you'd be asleep or not. I didn't wake you up, did I? I don't know. Hideki accepted her strange answer, knowing it was probably the narcotics talking more so than anything. I just came in to check on you. They weren't completely sure about your dosage, so... Why weren't you there with me? She asked him, the sadness obvious in her voice. Oh, Harmony, damn it. Harmony turned her head to look at Hideki as he sat down in the chair next to the head of her bed. I wasn't there because I'm too weak. That's why. The thought of you lying there going through that much pain, I still don't know if I could have endured that. Hideki, I'm not nearly as strong as you are, Harmony. Look at you. You made it through something that I couldn't even watch you do. I know you're probably upset with me, and you should be. Tears began to flow down his cheeks, but his voice stayed as calm as always. I failed you. I failed you, Harmony, he whispered, just like old times. Harmony gingerly scooted up in her bed until she was in a semi-seated position. She placed one hand over the back of Hideki's neck, and with the other, she wiped the tears off his cheeks. She moved closer to him, so softly that he didn't even notice how close she'd gotten, until he felt her breath on his face when she spoke. You're so dumb, Hideki. The kiss caught Hideki off guard. He didn't kiss back. He didn't know what had happened until she had pulled back away from him. A long silence passed. You only did that because you're high, didn't you? Probably. I mean, that's probably what gave me the courage, but I've wanted to do that for a long time now. So have I. Their second kiss was deeper and lasted much longer, each party expressing years of bottled emotions as best as they could with such a simple gesture. I'm sorry I wasn't there for you, Hideki said, pulling away from her lips for a moment. Shh, she whispered. Don't spoil the moment. He stayed at her side for several minutes. As he sat next to her, he noticed her drift off several times, then awake suddenly, before repeating the cycle. He adjusted her sheets as he stood up. I'm gonna go. You need your rest. No, why? She asked, like a little kid who doesn't want her mother to leave from work. Those drugs make you sleepy. That's a good thing. It lets you heal. So I'm gonna go so you can sleep. Hideki, sleep with me? He looked at her, a quizzical look on his face. Harmony giggled slightly. You know what I mean. Just lie here next to me. Hideki blushed. No, I know, but I don't. I mean, what will the others think if they come in to check on you and I'm... Since when do you care what others think? She had a point. Come on, Hideki, please don't leave me alone again. I want you here with me. I'll heal best with you here. He couldn't help but smile at the childish reasoning behind her request. He knew that she was way off out of it at this point, not even totally conscious probably, but he also knew that her sentiment was real. It just fit. It just felt right. Hideki lay next to her in a rather uncomfortable position. He made a conscious effort to keep his legs as far away from her as possible, so as not to inadvertently bump her injured leg. But with his top half, he held her as securely as he possibly could. He wanted her to know without having to tell her that he would never leave her side again.